This is the METS POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the New York Mets. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Edwin Diaz avoids a complete meltdown. The Mets offense does enough early, and they take the opener of this series from the Cincinnati Reds by a final of 5-4. Welcome into the Mets Postcast here live on the Locked On Mets YouTube channel. You can listen to us in the Locked On Mets podcast feed. I'm your Postcast host, Chris Schubert, here with you after the Mets games conclude. Let's all do it together. Whoo! Take that deep breath. Edwin Diaz made it adventurous. He made it, he had to pull a magic trick, pull a rabbit out of his hat. But he slammed the door in the ninth inning after loading the bases. He gets the final 3 outs, and the Mets win the first game of this series. And we got the full-blown Edwin Diaz experience tonight. And you kind of expect that to happen at times throughout the course of the year. But, I mean, my palm's still a little sweaty watching that one here from the comfort of my own home. Let's dive right into this one. A lot to unpack. David Peterson back on the mound for the Mets, trying to wash out the bad taste from his mouth, from all of our mouths, from his last time out. And so let's start with the starter in this game, David Peterson.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Coming into tonight's matchup for David Peterson, this felt like a tough draw for him. Struggling as of late, a 7.5 ERA over his last 5 starts, coming to an environment, a ballpark that isn't really favorable to starting pitchers. It's easy to kind of score in this ballpark, especially this time of year. And so it didn't feel like it lined up well for this to be the bounce back performance for David Peterson. And it sort of was. I'll say this version of David Peterson, I don't think can start a playoff game for the New York Mets. I think that's my big takeaway from this start. He was better. The box score is going to look better. He overall was better despite that 4th inning. But in general, this David Peterson, I don't think can line up as a starter for the Mets in the postseason. And this is why you hear people talk about the pressure that's on McLean and Tong and Sproat. And you hear everybody say, the kids don't have to be superheroes. They don't have to come up here and put the team on their shoulders. David Peterson's going to continue to pitch like this. If Sean Manaea is going to continue to struggle, if we'll talk about Kodai Senga here a little bit later on in the show, if Senga isn't going to be able to come back and help, the Mets do need these kids to come up and be superheroes, because I don't know who's starting game 3 in the postseason. I don't know who's starting game 2. Right now, you're going to have Nolan McLean start game 1. And after that, I don't know who's starting game 2 and game 3. And so while better than giving up 8 runs in his last start, not the start from David Peterson that I think we all wanted to see to make us feel better about him potentially drawing the assignment in game 2 or game 3. So wasn't impressed. This didn't make me feel better about PD starting a playoff game. And instead, it makes me now, with bated breath, waiting for his next start to see if that's where he goes back to being the David Peterson of old. He deserves a longer leash than any of the other starters to try to get back on course. But this is why Brandon Sproat's being called up on Sunday. That's why Jonah Tong was called up before him. McLean before that. The Mets don't have 3 trusted options in their rotation. They're hoping that the kids are going to be that answer. So we keep talking about not trying to put pressure on them. The pressure's on them. This is the David Peterson we're going to get the rest of the season. Kodai Senga is not going to come back and be able to contribute. If Clay Holmes can't get through 5 innings, Sean Manaea doesn't fix it, it is going to fall on their shoulders. So I was really hoping for a bounce back performance to say, okay, that's the David Peterson we all remember. That's the David Peterson that can start a playoff game. We're back on track. I don't think we're back on track. He had that weird 4th inning where he led the Reds back into the game, and then the Mets bullpen had to dance out of some trouble multiple times, including what Edwin Diaz had to dance through in the 9th inning. You got the win, you take it, you move on, but not the start from David Peterson that I think we all wanted to see. And then this game falls somewhat on the offense, and I'm not going to harp on them. They've been great since August 1st. They've been the best offense in baseball, and they were great tonight. Got off to a really solid start. 3 innings in the first. Should have been more. Shout out to TJ Friedl. I mean, you just tip your cap when you make a play like that, robbing Brendan Nimmo of a home run. Could have been 5. Could have been 5-0 in the first inning. So the Mets offense started early. Mark Vientos added a home run, his 16th of the year. It's going to be funny when we look up and he's got, 20 to 25 home runs by the end of the season. And the Mets just didn't capitalize late. I write in my notes throughout the course of the game. I break it down inning by inning by inning. And I counted it afterwards. In the 6th inning, I said, where's the insurance? The 7th inning, please score runs. The 8th inning, in all caps, after Rogers did his job in the bottom of the 8th, please score runs. Again, score runs, please, in all caps. The Mets had multiple chances to break things open. In the 6th inning, Pete Alonso grounds into the inning-ending double play with a chance to add insurance. Soto grounds out with 2 on in the 8th to try to add on the insurance. The Mets just didn't capitalize on the chances that they had, and that's what made this game closer. That's what made you sitting on the edge of your seat watching this bullpen try to navigate through chance after chance after chance for the Reds, culminating in that 8th inning. The 9th inning, excuse me. That 9th inning doesn't have to happen if the Mets capitalize and they pick up some insurance runs after, going up 5-0 after the 4th inning. They had chances to blow this game open, make it 6-4, 7-4, give Edwin Diaz a little bit more cushion. And yet they weren't able to do that. And so now bases loaded in the 9th inning. Yeah, one hit sinks you. You lose the game. You give the Reds all the momentum the rest of the weekend. And now they've drawn a game closer. Giants draw a game closer. You put yourself under a little bit of pressure. And oh, by the way, you have a chance to pass the Padres if you keep winning. Mets got it done tonight. They survived. That's the word that I would use to describe this one. But PD didn't inspire a lot of confidence, and you just hate that this offense couldn't capitalize to make this game be in hand and not have to have that magic trick from Edwin Diaz in the 9th inning, not even needing to be in that situation. Got to talk about the rest of the bullpen, the other stuff to keep an eye on, including who made a return for the New York Mets tonight. We will get to all of it. Your thoughts always right here on the Mets Postcast. This episode brought to you by Zippix toothpicks. Whether you're looking for nicotine satisfaction or an energy boost, Zippix has you covered with their nicotine and caffeine-infused toothpicks. For nicotine users, Zippix provides a discreet way to satisfy cravings and the hand-to-mouth habit without vaping or smoking. Zippix can be a helpful tool as you work to reduce your dependence on vaping. Available in 6 great flavors with 2 milligrams and 3 milligram nicotine options. And if you need energy without the crash, their caffeine toothpicks are a game changer. Go to zippixtoothpicks.com. Use the code LOCKEDON for 10% off your first order. Must be 21 years or older to order. Warning, nicotine is an addictive chemical. That's zippixtoothpicks.com. Promo code LOCKEDON. Zip more, smoke less with Zippix toothpicks. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. Golf is all about the good times with good people and good flavors. The grape ginger lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart. Now, you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. Back here on the Mets Postcast, Chris Schubert with you, recapping a Mets 5-4 victory, surviving against the Cincinnati Reds. Edwin Diaz working in and out of trouble there in the 9th inning, loading the bases, but then getting the next 3 guys out. The Mets pick up a victory. They push the Reds further back in the standings. They put more pressure on the San Diego Padres, try to pass them in that wild card standing. Just breathe a sigh of relief. You take it. You're happy about the victory. You just move on to the next day. That's how I think I feel about this one. Ricardo asks, Chris, there are only 3 pitchers you can trust on this team: Raley, McClain, and Diaz. That's it. I think I'd add Tyler Rogers to that group as well. I think Rogers has been solid as of late, was solid again tonight. Let's talk about the bullpen in general, because I think this is going to kind of get lost in the shuffle. I did not like the move from Carlos Mendoza tonight to go to Ryan Stanek first thing out of the bullpen with the Mets holding on to a 1-0 lead, or a 1-run lead, I should say, leading 5-4. I did not like Ryan Stanek being the first guy that got called on in this moment. Ryan Stanek has been kind of relegated to low leverage assignments. He has been relegated to coming in when the game is very much in hand. A couple of the blowout wins the Mets have had as of late. Ryan Stanek has drawn the assignment in the ninth inning. And when you have the day off the day before, you're playing the Cincinnati Reds, you're holding on to a 1-0 lead at a ballpark where we know offense can just erupt at any moment. I just did not like going to Ryan Stanek, and I think that goes to show you where the Mets are at with their bullpen. With no Reed Garrett, with no Huascar Brazoban, not being able to trust Ryan Helsley right now, the Mets are really lacking options to bridge the gap from their starter to Raley, Rogers, Diaz closing out the game. You need one or two relievers to help get you through that sixth inning and maybe the seventh inning on nights where Raley and Rogers aren't available. And the Mets don't have a group that I think any of us trust. And so tonight it had to be Ryan Stanek. He got out of it. So results-wise, you take it. Results-wise, you hope that this builds his confidence and he can get back to being in the circle of trust tree, trust triangle, however you want to describe it. But I just didn't like the process. The process worried me a little bit because very easily Ryan Stanek could be in one of those spots here later on in this series, later on down the road, and it would not surprise me to see him give up that lead. So this team has to get Reed Garrett back. This team has to try to figure out Ryan Helsley. I don't know how they're going to do that. I don't know if they're going to have the time to do that. Time is of the essence for this team right now, so it doesn't feel like that's in the cards. They really need to figure out what they're doing with that sixth inning because it is a major problem. So results-wise, you take it. Results-wise, Stanek got the outs that he needed. He got out of trouble. He gave the Mets what they needed tonight. Process-wise, not sure that's the bullpen arm I would have gone to. Me, if I'm sitting in Carlos Mendoza's chair, I had the day off yesterday. I need to worry about today's game against the Cincinnati Reds. I need to win right here. Worry about Saturday on Saturday. Worry about Sunday on Sunday. I would have asked Rogers for 5 outs. Get me out of the 6th. Get me out of the 7th. Raley in the 8th. Diaz in the 9th. That's the way I would have done it. That's the way I would have set it up. Rogers is the guy that I trust more to be able to get you multiple outs. Not sure they want to ask Raley to do that. So you set up Raley for the 8th. You have Diaz for the 9th. You ask Rogers to get you 5 outs. He does one up, down. And yeah, you manage it a little bit more aggressively, but you had an off day yesterday. Everybody's fully healthy. Got to win this game tonight. That's what I would have done. Luckily, it worked out for the Mets tonight, but I certainly have some concerns about this being their game plan moving forward. Francisco Alvarez made his return to the Mets tonight. We'll use this as the kickoff to the stuff to keep an eye on, and just absolutely fantastic to see him back in action for the Mets, and just incredible to see that he was able to come back so quickly. Just missed 15 games from the pair of injuries to his hands and came back, had a hit in this game. Obviously, it looked like a couple of times that obviously the issue with his hands was bothering him, couldn't firmly hold on to some foul tips at times. I'm not surprised that that's going to happen. Was surprised the Reds didn't test him more on the base paths when they got on the bases to see how his arms, how his hands, and his pop time and how everything would function. Kind of surprised they weren't more aggressive against him, but good to see him back. Sort of picked up right where he left off, had a hit, took it the opposite way. Again, just nice to see him back in the lineup. The other big story here today that we'll discuss here in the post-cast, Kodai Senga agreed to the minor league assignment. It's going to go down to Syracuse, work down there. Looks like he's going to make a handful of starts, and then the Mets will evaluate from there if he'll come back up and help the big league club. And here's the message that I want to share on this. I was very worried that Kodai Senga would opt to not go down to the minor leagues, as is his right. He's absolutely within his right. The way his contract is structured and written, he's allowed to refuse a minor league assignment if he doesn't agree with what the Mets want to do. I'm glad that he accepted the assignment, not because I think it's going to help him. I do think it's going to help him. I think we'll get back to seeing the best version of Kodai Senga, being able to work on his mechanics down there in Syracuse, not trying to help a team win a World Series. But because I was afraid of what the perception would be of Kodai Senga if he chose to exercise that part of his contract and not accept the minor league assignment. I was worried that the Bluebirds would be out for Kodai Senga, and I worried that that was going to make this situation worse, and that would not make Kodai Senga a bad guy for choosing to not accept it. But I can just see the frustration some Mets fans would have about the idea of we're trying to win, and it doesn't feel like you're interested in the same goals as everybody else. And so I'm glad that situation was avoided altogether. I'm glad that Kodai Senga loved the plan that the Mets put together and that the Mets involved him. And I love the report earlier today from Andy Martino of SNY that their relationship is great. The communication was off the charts. They see eye to eye on this. There were no problems whatsoever. I loved seeing all of that. It was fantastic to see that that's how this played out, because there was that worry for a couple of days of whether or not he would accept it. And I worried about what the blowback would be if he chose to stay up. So rooting for him down there, rooting for him to make those 2 starts, work on what he needs to work on down there. And I hope that he fixes it and he's back and he's able to contribute to this team here either late this year in September or potentially as part of the postseason roster. So really excited about that. Good night for Francisco Lindor, on base, 5 times in this one. So he was great tonight, setting the table. We mentioned Mark Vientos hitting his 16th home run of the year. Just a team that had the offense early, didn't have it late. Bullpen survived. Edwin Diaz pulls off the magic trick. Most important stat of them all today, the Mets pick up the dub. They beat the Cincinnati Reds in the first game of the series. And Keith mentioned it in the pregame a little bit. You sweep this team, you basically eliminate them from the playoffs. You don't mathematically do it, but you're going to feel really good about being able to take them off the table of needing to watch the out-of-town scoreboard, right? And so just take care of business over the weekend. You won the first one. You survived. Do what you got to do here to make sure that you win this series either tomorrow or on Sunday. And then if you can, go for the sweep. Ricardo, correct shout out. Acuna making that play. Not sure if Beatty makes that play. Not sure if McNeil makes that play. In fact, I don't think either of them make that play. So Acuna makes the play. Shout out to Diaz covering first base. He got over there. He got over there in enough time. The throw was good. It all worked out. The Mets pick up a dub. They go for the series win tomorrow, second game of this series. Do yourself a favor. Keep an eye on the Padres tonight on the out-of-town scoreboard. Keep an eye on the Giants on the out-of-town scoreboard. Those are the things that you're going to be keeping an eye on here for the Mets, as they could potentially draw even with the Padres. As we are recording the end of this postcast, Colorado with a 2-0 lead on San Diego in the 6th. So there is a world where the Mets are even record-wise with the Padres by the time we get things done. Tomorrow, we're right back here to break down Jonah Tong's second major league start. He draws a tough assignment going to Great American Ballpark, a tough environment for pitchers. Let's see what the follow-up looks like to his MLB debut. Appreciate all of you being here. Please hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so that you are notified when we go live after each and every Mets game throughout the course of the season. If you're listening to us in the podcast feed, come on out and join us live when these games are over. The Mets survive. They pick up a win in the opener of this series. The offense did enough early. The bullpen survived late. The Mets were victorious. Until tomorrow, have a good one, Mets fans.